Wiggle, 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 wiggle.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, for the second time this evening. Oh no, we have young ladies coming in. We have Morgan coming in. Good evening, Morgan. We have young gentlemen coming in. We have my wife making funny faces at me from the door. Okay, we're ready. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, for the second time this evening, I want to introduce, we've just got into the CFZ Time Machine, and we have a visit from over 100 years ago from our special guest, Mr. P.T.Barnum.
Good evening once again, ladies and gentlemen. Phineas T. Barnum at your service. Is this thing on? Hello. I'll just project anyway. Well, as you can see, I've recovered from my bout of the new lightning French alopecia from the song of the same name. Alopecia. Anyway, my luxuriant grey curls have burgeoned once again. I'd like to address you on the subject of there's a sucker born. Thank you, Cardiff Giles. Thank you. There's a sucker born every minute. That would probably be the most famous thing that I, Phineas Taylor Barnum, ever said, right? Well, it would be if I'd ever said it. The trouble is, I didn't. Although I have never publicly denied it. Let me let you into a secret about show business. There is no such thing as bad publicity. Oh yes, ladies and gentlemen, what does it matter if someone is coming to your show to heckle you, to prove you wrong, or to try and gain a sense of superiority over other people by shouting loudly that they can see your humbug? You already have their entrance fee in your pocket, and their shouting will only attract more people to the show, hoping to fan the flames of their egos by doing the same. Blinkered skepticism has always been as great an ally to me as that of the chap who'll believe anything he sees in print. One of my favourite attractions played on both of these types of people perfectly, and I am proud to say left both immensely happy when they had seen it. It was called The Great Unknown. The Great Unknown was a travelling show set in a railroad boxcar that I would park in a siding, in or near to a town centre. People would flock to it, curious as to what this great unknown might be. Speculation would be rife among the townsfolk, from fancy dinner parties to spit and sawdust saloons. It was the only topic of conversation. Added to this, whenever the local gossips were able to round up and question someone who had been inside, their eyes would mist over, and they'd say, "It has to be seen to be believed," rarely giving away anything else. So, what was inside the boxcar that inspired such awe? Well, nothing. Yes, nothing could inspire such awe. Well, nothing apart from a printed handbill requesting that now they were in on the joke, not to spoil the fun by telling anyone what wasn't inside the boxcar. And few did, because they had solved the mystery and were in on a secret that the other townsfolk were not. Were the people who visited the great unknown suckers? Certainly not. Once they had seen inside that boxcar, they were elevated to the same privileged position as myself and others in the know. That's the point. There is no such thing as a sucker in my line of work. Only customers. And they can make their own conclusions on what they see and whether to buy into my stories or not. But, back to the most famous quote. That most famous of quotes, where does it come from? Well, back in 1869, I became in a giant spot of bother. When I say giant, I mean giant, because in this case, it involved a supposedly petrified man. a man of gigantic proportions. The Cardiff Giant, as it came to be known, was bought by a fellow named David Hannum, who then leased it to me on the understanding that if it was a crowd pleaser in my New York museum, I could buy it outright for a small extra cost that we had previously agreed once the lease was up. Now, as you might expect, I can spot a con man when I see one. So once the giant was in my possession, I had a cast made of it, so that I could replace the giant if Hannum pulled a fast one. Sure enough, he did. And when the lease was up, after I had done a nice job puffing up the giant's reputation, he decided he wanted it back to exhibit himself in a national tour. So I gave it back to him reluctantly, but as soon as it was out of the state, I started to exhibit my carbon, or in this case, silicate copy. The plan would have worked perfectly if he had not returned before he was scheduled, leading to both giant exhibitions being advertised in the same New York paper. Well, he threatened to sue me. So I pulled out my ace and told the papers that Hannum's giant was a fake, which was, of course, true, as it had been made by a small-time con man named George Hull and buried on his cousin's farm. Of course, this made most people think that if the other was fake, my giant was real. The crowds flocked to see mine again. I had no intention of correcting this misperception, of course. That is when David Hannum was seen shaking his fist in the sky and shouting, "There's a sucker born every minute!" in disgust. Well, maybe you shouldn't believe everything you read, or at least look a bit closer. Enjoy the rest of the weekend, and I sincerely hope to see you again. Well, maybe at one of my own shows next time. Maybe with a better microphone.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Phineas Taylor.